Hey scholars, welcome to chapter 11.5. We're also going to cover 11.6 in this chapter because it's super short in this segment, but we're going to look at how can we protect and sustain freshwater lakes, rivers, and fisheries and within freshwater systems. That's our main topic today. And when we look at this, really freshwater systems are under major threat from these couple of different things. And here's a mnemonic device to help you called HIPCO. And basically the H stands for habitat loss. I stands for invasive species. One of the P's stands for population growth. The second P stands for pollution. C stands for climate change. And the last one, O, stands for overfishing. Those are just a number of the different things, the threats, that really affect freshwater ecosystems. Case study, which is one of my favorites. I grew up on the Great Lakes. Can the Great Lakes survive repeated invasions by alien species? And they have a number of different times. It is collectively the world's largest body of freshwater. You guys saw a video on this back last chapter, taking a look at how lakes are formed. But it's been invaded by at least 162 different non-native invasive species. And a couple of them that have had the worst impact, number one is the sea lamprey. And maybe I'll post a couple of videos about this below. The next one is the zebra mussel. That's some good qualities because it is a filtration, it's a filter feeder, so literally it's filter out many pollutants in Lake Erie. But the bad part about it is it's really outcompeted other freshwater mussels in the region. Another one is the quagga mussel, very similar case is the zebra mussel, the bigger mussel. And the last one, the most recent entry to the Great Lakes, is the Asian carp. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, looking at the video of how invasive they are, very similar to the Nile perch in Lake Victoria, and those are just a few. But the question is, can they really keep sustaining and survive and thrive with all these different newcomers to the system? And this is just a picture of what zebra mussels look like. They're nasty little buggers. You have to wear water shoes all the time in Lake Michigan, a lot of the inland lakes as well. It's been a pretty. You can ask me about a story. I'll give you an extra point. If you ask me about a story, I can tell you about freshwater zebra mussels in my inland lakes. I'll give you an extra credit point for that. Two river basins that are very, very hard. Just over in general, these are good examples of managing river basins is very, very difficult and controversial. One of those is the Columbia River in the U.S. and Canada. It starts in Canada, comes down to the U.S. It is one of the most heavily dammed rivers. It actually has 119 dams in it, and 19 of those dams are used for very inexpensive hydroelectricity, which is the pro, cheap electricity for a lot of people. And it is a renewable resource, no fossil fuels being used. The cons, though, come with the salmon industry. And salmon numbers have really, really sharply dropped in that region because of the damming. They're not getting to where they need to go to spawn. That's having huge problems for the population. Another example is the Snake River in the state of Washington. Same thing, hydroelectric dams. There's a lot of push for people to take down a few of those dams to allow the migratory paths of salmon to go through. But there's been a lot of people complaining about that because they get a lot of their electricity from hydroelectric, which is very cheap. So it's very controversial and hard to manage, but so many different parties are butting heads, which happens a lot in environmental science. Ecological services of rivers, they do a lot of stuff. They deliver nutrients to the sea and help sustain coastal fisheries. They deposit silt that maintains deltas and floodplains, purify water for us. They renew and renourish wetlands, and also provide many different habitats for different wildlife. We can protect freshwater ecosystems and watersheds by, again, through laws, economic incentives, maybe tourism, things like that, and also restoration efforts. In 1968, the National and Wild Scenic Rivers Act basically allowed a lot of different rivers that the wild rivers would be inaccessible, and scenic rivers that are accessible only in a few places, free from dams, free from diversion, free from roads being built over them, and that has very valuable act to freshwater streams and rivers. And again, this helps to sustain management of freshwater fishes too when you maintain those rivers. All right, let's take a look at our last section today. Is 11.6. What are our priorities for making sure that biodiversity is sustained and ecological service are maintained within these different aquatic systems? And one person, kind of a case study, but a highlight person is Edward O. Wilson, probably one of the most premier people when dealing with biodiversity. And in 2002, he came up with these couple of different things, strategies to protect and maintain biodiversity in the ecosystems in general. And he said that we should completely map the world's terrestrial and aquatic biodiversity. Where are the hot spots? Where are they located at around the world? He said, keep old growth forests intact and cease their logging because they are very valuable resources because they have been untouched. And they're very old as well, have lots of diversity among them. Identify and preserve hotspots and deteriorating ecosystem services that threaten the life of the organisms in those ecosystems, and then really push for ecological restoration projects and making conservation financially rewarding, which has been hard. A lot of people don't like hitting their pocketbooks when they're just trying to make something nice for the environment. So how do you spin it and make conservation itself rewarding for all parties, not just financially, but also morally as well? So those are a couple of his main priorities in protecting biodiversity and what we should focus on as we go throughout our other days as being apes. We'll see you guys next chapter. Have a good one.